Whenever you do observations, you gotta know the problems that may endanger the validity of your observation. First, presence of the observer. We all know that as soon as participants know or notice that they are being observed, they don't behave normally or naturally. The other thing is subjective judgment. Which we all have our own stereotypes, we all have our own bias, and we all have our own expectations from specific groups or ethnicities or gender. And we gotta know that a lot of time our judgment, even in direct observation, could be subjective. What solutions we have for these problems? One is concealing the observer, like using a one-way mirror or hidden camera. Another way is habituation, which means you go in the environment for a few days or even a few weeks, so the participants get used to your presence, and then you start your observation. The other one is to develop a list of well-defined categories, as I said before, to make your observation more accurate and more reliable. Also, if you're using multiple observers, you have to train them very well so they know exactly what to focus, what to measure, what to count, and what not to observe and what not to measure. And of course, if you use multiple observers, the chance of making mistake is going to be reduced. We have different types of observation. One is non-participant observation, that you're not there, you see them but they don't see you. And like I said, you can use a one-way mirror to do that. The other one is participant observation. Participant observation is when the observer becomes a member of the group, and they don't know and they don't notice that they are being observed by the researcher. The best example is a book written by a researcher named High School Confidential, in which the researcher actually goes and registers as a student in a high school, and everybody thinks he's a student, and he observes students' behavior everywhere, inside and outside the school. And finally, there is a setup or structure observation that is very similar to what they do in hidden camera, that you have a hidden camera and you set up a situation and you want to observe how people react to a specific stimulus or a specific setup. If you click on the link, you see an example of a video of an example of how students may follow or stand against bullies in school. Another type of descriptive research is a content analysis, which is different from the observation because you're not there to observe them, but you analyze pictures or the literature or records or movies after those events have happened, and then you want to see if you can find a pattern in behaviors. And then we have the survey as a descriptive research tool. A survey is so popular that probably all familiar. You write a few questions and then you give it to people to answer. So most of the time a survey is when you want to describe a particular group of individuals rather than a specific participant. The types of questions that are used in surveys could be categorized into two categories of open-ended and restricted questions. Open-ended are like essay type questions that you ask a general question and then participants answer your question the way they want to. But in a restricted questions like a multiple choice or selection items or Likert type skills, that they choose one or more options among multiple options that you give them to choose. This is an example of a rating scale question that is very popular and people use. It's called the Likert type rating, which usually has 5 categories, but sometimes it may have more or less than 5 categories. Something that we need to know is the problem with a rating scale. Although we believe that nobody knows people more than themselves, and usually we trust people when we give them a survey to give us an accurate answer, but some people don't want to spend time on answering, or they don't want to spend a long time on the survey, especially if the survey is long. They tend to skip some questions or answer the same response to all questions. That's a very known problem with a lot of surveys that is run every year around the world. And in order to avoid getting the same response to all questions, is to give them a mixture of positive and negative statements, because in this way they can't use like I agree for all questions or I disagree with all questions. They have to actually read it, otherwise their answer doesn't match, and you would know that the answer is not reliable.